The writing aspect, like it's gonna be 8 at least to get such a high score in speaking and scores lower than usual in reading and listening. It's like I could not predict that score like in any way. This 80.5. For a moment I had this thought of just giving up, like no, this is not worth it. But then after like thorough analysis I realized that it was not like a failure, it was just a calibration for me, a chance for me to know what to adjust, whether it's my health, my mindset maybe. And I did it like after 10 days. If the second attempt was on 28th of February, the last one was on 10th of March, and so apparently my speaking jumped from 7 to 9 in 10 days. Wow. So either that or I had it, I just couldn't access it during this exam.
Writing improved from 7.5 to 8, and speaking from 7.
Let's not speak about reading listening. A game changer.
Overall, you got just 6 for that.
Yeah.
Okay. And the task 2 for that was?
8, 4 8s.
4 8s. Oh, that one was 8.
Yeah, just as usual. To all the accents, American, English, Australian, good luck with that actually. Like I will not fail because of all these minor inconveniences. Actually, I'm gonna succeed in spite of them. And I just entered the IDP building with that quote in my head.
Tell me more about that.
Your
please.
advice, oh my god, if it wasn't for your advice, because like this. Hello.
Right. How are you feeling?
Great, feeling great.
Awesome.
Life's nice, life's great.
And how does it feel to have this band 9 in speaking?
And 9 speaking, it sure feels good, you know. Sort of an achievement, as some might call it, but I feel like it's not the end. It's not the end of my journey, IELTS journey. There's still more to come, to achieve.
Right. You're still ambitious about that overall 9?
Sure I am. I'm the closest I've ever been.
Yeah. And how did you feel like when you saw the scores, the results? You know?
It sure was unexpected, you know, like, I mean, I knew about the writing aspect, like it's gonna be 8 at least, but to get such a high score in speaking and scores lower than usual in reading and listening, it's like I could not predict that score like in any way, this 80.5.
So surprise, a little bit of...
Absolutely surprising, yeah.
Was there any disappointment?
I guess reading, listening are kind of disappointing because like how do you get it lower after you got it 9.9 the first time, but then speaking is like, it just compensates this, and if anything, this joy, this.
So yeah, that significance of that 9.
Sure does, yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool. Right. I want to ask you about your background. If you could just introduce maybe yourself, you know, like how old you are, like your education overall.
My name is Mirzabek. I'm sure everybody knows that. I'm like, 18, almost 19 years old. I have finished the average school, a public school. Then I studied 2 years in Westminster Lyceum, great place. Great students. Everybody's so smart, ambitious. I'm sure it did affect me a lot because being surrounded by such talented, hardworking students, it does create this feeling like you just want to be like them. You know, it's like the environment does play a huge role. And I'm sure that if I didn't study in Lyceum, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't get what I got. And then I entered this Westminster University, just like the closest building to the Lyceum. I didn't decide to make it any harder for myself. And that's it, basically, I guess.
And how about, let's talk about learning English, I guess, you know, when you started, how long you've been
I mean, comparing
studying
to everybody else, like, I guess I started kind of late, you know, because when I entered the Lyceum, I didn't know English whatsoever, like, I didn't have any IELTS. Then only after I finished the first course, when I was like when I already turned 17, I decided that okay, it's time for me to start preparing, and all of my peers in Lyceum already had at least like 6, 7, 8 IELTS grades, and I thought like okay, it's my turn. And so like after 4 months of my preparation, the first time, if you remember, in 2023, I got my first 8.
Oh, that was your actual?
Yeah, that was my first time ever studying, learning English like in a very serious manner.
But you had been exposed to English,
Sure,
right?
I was.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you were a lot younger, like when you were a child, maybe?
No, not that.
No.
I mean,
So
in
you
school.
really started learning English
Yeah.
around when you were 17?
Yes. It was like meaningful preparation, meaningful
okay.
learning time. Until
Right.
that, this was like not in a regular manner, nothing like no lessons. I mean, sure we had it in school, but it's like a school level. You ask anybody, they will tell you that they don't teach anything basically.
Oh, right.
Anything
Okay.
meaningful.
Okay. So you started with 8 already. Okay. And after, like, how long you already prepared at that time? Like, you had prepared before that, or for that first 8?
4 months.
4
or
months.
3.5. So it's like
Okay.
between July and September, October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So, okay. And then, all right, just for others, to have this overall understanding of how much actually took you to prepare, right? I mean, people are interested in numbers or, overall
Yes,
time.
Yeah.
So you prepared first time seriously for IELTS and everything for about 4 months. Then that's when you got that 8. Each sections, where do you recall?
9.
Mm-hmm.
Reading, listening, writing 7.5, speaking 7.
Right. Okay. Which was 7.5 at that time was already pretty great, right, for your performance. I mean, reading, listening, no surprise. Speaking, getting that 7 at the time was a bit disappointing because
it was, and if you remember, we did this EOR thing. I paid and lost, and nothing changed. It was.
Which I was a bit honestly surprised because I expected you would get at least 7.5 even, back then.
So did I.
But 7 was a bit low, but whatever. Okay, you accepted that and you prepared again after a year.
After a year, I mean.
You came back?
Yeah, like after the first time I got this 8, English became a part of my everyday life. And basically, like all the content I was consuming was in English. And at that point, I wasn't really like, language was just a tool for me to get more knowledge. And in that sense, you could say that I was preparing for a year because I was exposed to English every day. There's YouTube, serials, like TV series, films, or with my friends just in Lyceum, helping them.
Right. So after a year when you came back, you prepared again for the test this time. How long? Overall?
A lot more.
But was it like 3-4 months?
So what was it? I mean, like, overall it was from August, right? From August until March. I mean, I did some breaks, of course. I burned out a few times. I found out about my limits, like my natural limits, how much I can work hard for how much, what period of time. So I guess you could say like it was like not serious, like 6 months.
But at least 3 months.
3 months for sure. It was,
overall 6 months. Right. Okay. So then you got again 8.
Yes.
That was your second test.
Happened. Yes.
Okay. Scores for each section again, they were reading, listening 9.
Reading 9, listening 8, writing 7.5, and speaking was again 7. It was devastating. I really had me thinking, what am I even doing? What did I spend my last months of my life on? Like.
Yeah,
I had this.
Totally.
For a moment, I had this thought of just giving up. Like, no, this is not worth it. But then, after like thorough analysis, I realized that it was not like a failure. It was just a calibration for me, a chance for me to know what to adjust, whether it's my health, my mindset, maybe. And I did it like after 10 days. If the second attempt was on 28th of February. The last one was on 10th of March, and so apparently my speaking jumped from 7 to 9 in 10 days. Wow. So either that or I had it, I just couldn't access it during this exam.
Okay, right. So the second time, again, I want to highlight that because I think many people can resonate with that, being stuck at a particular section or score, right? Your speaking was 7 again, undeservedly, absolutely. It was ridiculous, but whatever. Writing, though, was again 7.5.
Yes.
Yeah? Yes. Okay. Reading was 9, but listening, you said, was 8.
Listening was 8, it was...
Do you recall, why there was that drop?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, I guess I didn't feel comfortable in the place.
Right.
I paid too much attention to the environment of the speaking centers. Like it was a bit cold, the chair, the screen, the mouse.
Okay.
It kind of.
Right.
I got distracted by it, I guess.
So even the exam, like the room, affected your performance.
It did.
Okay.
I know. There's a way
Sure.
how to avoid that, but I did get overwhelmed by this emotion of just.
So you knew what you could have done at the time, but
yeah.
you
I
had
knew.
forgotten because you were
Mm,
overwhelmed by the factors.
well, emotions a bit. I was a bit sick back at the time. Like,
okay.
fever stuff, coughing, running nose. It did play a role.
Okay, so you were actually sick at the time. Okay, right. And the third time, after about a week of preparation, you took the third time, and that's when you got that 8.5. So writing improved from 7.5 to 8, and speaking from 7
Let's not
to...
speak about reading listening.
No, I do want to though. I do, because I think that's also very significant. Like what happened this time. Okay, let's talk about those easier sections. Why reading went down.
So reading was absolutely surprising. Like usual 40 out of 40 was only 37. And I mean, sure, one question, I know why it's wrong, because I kind of got a bit too meticulous, I guess, because I paid attention to every word, and usually it helps. But in that sentence, in that question, it was really about your intuition. Like, how does it feel? Like, what is the information is telling you from the passage?
Intuition.
Yes.
Or
like,
you just overthought, like,
I
or you overlooked maybe something.
I overthought because of every little word. And yeah,
Interesting.
It's like I was feeling one thing, but my rational mind was telling me another thing, and I listened to my rational side, and it didn't turn out to be correct.
Interesting. Well, usually rational part of the brain is the way to go.
I guess I don't know. It's like,
do you even recall like the wording of the question in the text?
Yeah, I do. So it was basically like something is almost too small to notice with a narrow eye, with a naked eye. And then the question was like, is it hard to read?
Oh, but that's just a paraphrase. It's not like
I thought it was
comprehension of the meaning.
Almost part kind of took me off, really.
Oh, okay. Well, no. Then it's not about intuition or rational thinking. It's properly comprehending words. It's like in
it's like words
when we say, like, in the speaking, for example, you can hear the tone. But this is good for others, though. Sometimes lack of comprehension, because it's not about vocab, honestly, right? It's not about noticing every little word, but it's about understanding the overall, like, what is the meaning? Yeah. Okay. But all right, so that's one. But then other like two. You had two more mistakes that you have absolutely no idea about, like why you got those wrong.
I know one, because it was like a bit unusual to have one thing being chosen 3 times in a row. And I was like, okay, it kind of looks odd, but after checking everything, it was correct, or at least it seemed correct to me. But I'm sure that was a mistake, looking back now.
Wait, like, I'm not sure I understand. You chose in a row what?
One option in a row. It was basically like names of 3 different things. And one of them was going 3 times in a row, while other were only once or twice.
And what happened there? You chose like...
I chose what I thought to be correct based on the text.
Okay.
But now I'm sure I either overlooked something.
Oh, you ended up choosing like same names several times in a row. And now you're feeling that maybe there was something wrong.
Because, like, I had this feeling of not being confident about this choice, about this question. And I'm sure actually there might be that those are 2 mistakes.
Okay.
So yeah.
Maybe. All right.
I kind of moved on, to be honest. It's like, okay, it happened. I know how to prevent that mistake now. Just trust my gut when it comes to
Okay. Now, can we just like talk about each section like that overall? Okay. So you said that you'd only prepared for IELTS and, general English for such a short period of time. It was not even like, years before you got that overall Band 9 in your reading the first time, even the second time. Before you came to my classes, or before you even, started preparing for IELTS reading seriously, like how did you approach the test? How did you approach the reading? Like, did you have any specific way or understanding, and did you change that over time?
Well, I guess what helped me the most was that my mind was free of IELTS garbage that is very popular on the internet, I literally knew nothing. And it's like the first time I started doing these mocks, I started them on my own before coming to you. And I was like, I just read the question. I realized what is it asking. Just follow the steps that are given. And that was enough for me, like, to start with a relatively high score. And then it all went down, like, with you. We just started improving the true, false, not given questions, like sections type of questions. And then it happened 9. So basically, I feel like this distractions, the wrong misinformation on the internet.
Such as what?
Such as, I don't know, like this unique strategies, look only at that question. I don't know, like there's so much stuff. And it looks ridiculous now for me, but I understand that if I knew nothing about IELTS and I was like, the first thing I learned about reading was that I could start with passage 3. I was like, okay, man, I would trust them. So yeah.
Okay, so to have a final clear picture on the reading, what is your approach now? Like, what do you do under exam conditions? You have the reading test.
So yeah,
you're about to start. What do you do first?
First, I like to look at the questions to know what kind of information I have to look for, whether it's just words or names.
You don't actually read in detail the questions.
No, I just know what type of question is it, like heading or this and that. And then I kind of adjust my brain to look for that type of information. But it happens like in milliseconds on subconscious level. Sure. I really don't pay attention to it. Like I don't try to think about it. And then I just read one passage or one paragraph, analyze what I read, summarize it if possible, and go through the questions and find like matching words I find. If something is not yet, I haven't read it yet, I just remember it. Like, okay, this question is asking me the name of a person who did that. And now if I learn about the name or about this action in the text, I just link it in my brain. I mark it. And that's it. I move on to the next. So
you are reading a paragraph, answering whatever question you can based on that paragraph. You move on to the next paragraph. You answer whatever you can, like that. You're not following the questions.
No.
Okay. You don't have any special strategy for different question types, or do you?
Actually, not really. It's just like you just read stuff. You figure out what is written.
And by figure out, you mean
analyze the text.
You understand the meaning. You're following meaning, by the way.
Yeah, sure.
Or are you looking for specific keywords?
No. Keyword stuff. Like, sure, one word can make a difference, but generally, you have to understand what is the text is telling. Like I call it the mood of a text. When it's criticizing something, that the words are negative, or like what they're gonna try to say is they are criticizing something. They're using some negative language or
mood or tone of the author. Especially in passage 3, maybe. Where the ideas get a little abstract.
But then once you get however, you understand that now the mood has changed and the information conveyed is different.
That's quite insightful. I don't think many candidates actually pay attention to mood. I mean, I don't think they have even time to think about that, but they should, because they're too busy focusing on question types or time or any other strategies. But you focus on, other than meaning, you also focus on the mood.
Yes.
Okay, nice. So no special strategies for question types, just comprehension, understanding.
And developing the reading speech, like the pace of reading also helpful.
How did you develop that?
I was born with it, I guess.
You were born with it?
In English, in Russian, in Uzbek. I always read. I was really fast at reading,
But do you know like what exactly you do to read fast? Have you ever noticed?
I don't focus on every word. I just run.
You don't focus on every word?
Not when I try. Like, generally I don't. But if the question is very hard, challenging, I have to.
Then you focus. Otherwise, the first time you're reading?
I just ran through it. And, like you don't even read the whole word. You just read the first 2 syllables and now you know what it's telling you.
Right.
And you just, skim, whatever they say about it.
Right. Could it be also because you've been reading a lot? I mean,
I guess. I started reading in preschool when I was like, 6, 5?
English?
In Russian, of course, not in English.
Okay.
And then, I did lots of reading.
Oh, speaking of reading, by the way, do you read other books, magazines, whatever, or you do only IELTS reading?
Of course not. I read all kinds of stuff. No, not books. Like not
fiction,
many.
Fiction.
Yeah, not.
You don't read books.
Fiction. I mean, I did, and maybe 2 dozens of books in total, in both English and Russian. Okay. But it's like I feel like if you were to compare it to somebody who actually says they read books, it's like nothing, because they have like hundreds. Their library consists of hundreds of books.
Is that because you don't like reading books, or
I don't know.
you don't have
I was
time?
more into films, video
right.
games. Not really reading.
That's also interesting. So maybe it's good for others to know. I mean, like if they wanted to improve reading, right? Like what they need to do. They're
Sure.
usually told to read as much as possible. That's interesting. Okay, so you could do well in the reading without reading a lot of books. But then, how about articles or magazines, journals? Do you read?
Mm, like there's some Russian newsletters or Uzbek. They have just short, brief introduction of the news, like what happened during the day. I used to read that when it was on TV
But
or
is
something.
that in English?
I told back in Russian. I
No,
mean,
no,
like,
no. We're
if you're
talking about
English.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, in English.
in English.
How often do you read?
I mean, now I'm reading one book in English.
Mm-hmm.
I finished like a few of them only in English.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't read in English. Really.
Okay, you don't read
Yeah.
much, even articles. You don't really read a lot.
No.
Okay, interesting. Okay. All right.
Reading English.
I guess we're done. So no special strategy. You just focus on meaning.
Just develop this understanding.
Yeah. Okay. What about do you focus on time at all while you're reading, while you're answering questions?
No, I actually don't want to fill my mind with worrying about the time. I just want to waste. I don't want to waste this mental energy on it.
Yeah.
I just do what I have to do. I focus fully on the text. I enter the flow state, and then when I move to the next passage, I was like, it's been 15 minutes. Great.
Mm-hmm.
I have 40 minutes left.
You don't even notice how time, but
I
you're doing
don't
always
know.
away.
Yeah,
Flow state. How do you get into flow state?
Well, for me, I had it really from the young age. I just like anytime I entered the exam room, I knew that all I think about is just a question, and I don't get distracted by any other noise or voice.
It's another gift.
I guess it's a gift. I mean, it is possible to develop if you know how to focus, if you know like what triggers you the most, and you know how to ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And but in my case, I guess like I just accidentally discovered it in a young age, and I subconsciously learned how to enter this deep focus.
But then later you said in your next one, when you were sick or when you paid attention
I
to
was
the
not
environment,
in a,
like you were not in a flow state.
Yeah, absolutely not.
So how do you put yourself in a flow state?
Well, comfort, I feel like it does play a big role because you want to make sure, you should have to be, I mean, like your clothes shouldn't be too tight. You have to feel like nothing in your body should ache, like there shouldn't be any pain that may distract you.
Yeah, that's true.
And I feel like some people, they perform better when they are full. Others, they like to be a bit like hungrier. Caffeine may play a role. I feel like just knowing yourself, just like researching your own kind of criteria that help you develop or perform better is an important thing, and it does help with focus state, with flow state.
Right. So self-awareness.
Self-awareness,
people could develop by while they're taking their mock exams. They could analyze what helps them to feel comfortable, what doesn't, what distracts them. Yeah. Right. So you don't have anything special other than that. Interesting. Like I, for example, do let me, if it resonates with you, to get into that flow state, that concentration, like where I just focus on what's right in front of me rather than whatever is outside happening. I engage myself in what I'm doing. I keep telling myself like, okay, I'm doing this reading about plants. I love plants. They're interesting.
Yeah.
Like what I'm going to learn about, plants in this passage.
Yeah, I feel like this is part of my personality actually.
That's like something.
Yeah, whenever I learn something new, I just naturally, genuinely get interested in it. Even if it's like something very boring like biology or anatomy. You had it again from a very young age. In school, in Lyceum, like whenever I learned something, I wanted to understand it. And really, I feel like there's no boring topic. It's just...
That's true.
Yes, you can actually become engaged in anything, whether it's, again, physics, economy, finance, sports.
Okay, curiosity.
Yeah, I just have it naturally.
Yeah.
I just care too much, I guess. I don't know.
Or care too much. So yeah, totally. Being curious is like something. Yeah, instead of focusing on other aspects like nervousness, time, or whatever, people just could focus on being curious, cultivating that skill. Yeah. I mean, for those, who are not naturally gifted at being curious, I don't want them to think like, oh, I'm not naturally curious, so that's it, I
Of
hope,
course not.
I want them to, because like there are certain topics that I personally don't like. But at the same time, I agree with you. Like any topic could be really interesting if it's delivered properly. But at the same time, I mean, like if you're not always that lucky, then there are ways, I guess, people could
to
engage
nurture
themselves.
this
Like, yeah,
curiosity.
visualizing, connecting with it or whatever. Like if they could spend their time on such aspects of the prep, maybe they wouldn't worry so much and they wouldn't suffer, by making mistakes or doing the wrong thing. All right, got it. Let's talk about the listening now. Because that's the easiest section, obviously.
Generally,
I mean, like in the past, did you do anything special about listening to improve your listening skills?
I mean, the listening, I think, the general advice of exposing yourself to English is the most beneficial because, like, you have to listen to English to be able to catch this, how the words are pronounced, the intonations they use, how they stress certain verbs or nouns. And, again, as I mentioned before, I used to listen. I listen to English literally every day, and just hearing something said, any word, any sentence in English, just natural to me. It's like almost as Russian.
All right, and it doesn't matter what you listen to. You listen to like anything in English? Or
No, of course I have my preferences.
Such as?
Like right now, I'm a big fan of psychology, finance, especially a bit of politics, I guess you could say that, but it's really more about economy, this tariffs, like a big word, loud word.
All right. Yeah, listening to anything. Now, okay, that's just general stuff, right? Like, overall listening experience. But under exam conditions, do you do anything special, like strategy-wise, like how you approach it?
Yeah, when it was on paper, just highlighting what is, like, just tracking what is being said with pen and matching it with what's on the paper was very useful in the sense that if like the audio just started and they're saying about something and I see that it's written on the paper, I just highlight it. I either tick it or put a circle to just know to track the audio using the paper, the questions. In CD, it was actually much harder. I mean, I still could highlight, but I guess I just got used to having a pen in my hand and doing stuff with my just like hand, just using this handwriting as a way to.
You're just doodling, or you're actually writing down things? You're taking notes on what you're hearing, or what you're thinking, whatever.
I'm not taking notes because with some questions it's too time consuming. But doodling, I guess you could say that it's doodling.
And that helps you to do what? Like concentrate better?
Concentrate, yeah. It does help.
Right.
It does help to me.
Okay. It could be absolutely something else, not connected to what you're hearing. So you're just doodling.
You're talking about CD?
Well, no, in general. Okay,
paper?
fine. Sure. Under exam conditions,
Under exam conditions.
So you are, okay, if you're taking the paper-based test, you're listening.
And
before you start listening, obviously read the questions in advance.
Yeah.
You understand, you make sure you understand them.
Yeah. Yes.
And while listening,
sometimes
you're
I
just
try to guess.
tracking information.
Yes.
And,
It's paper-based.
Right, okay. That's pretty much it. Even with multiple choice questions, you just listen carefully. You try to match what's said, what's not. Eliminate right away, whatever. You're not taking notes or anything. Yeah.
Depends on the mood, really. I mean, like, if I feel like the question is very long and every answer is very long, I just have to. Otherwise, I will just lose the information. I will forget it, or I will miss it. So I mean, like, if it's like a part 2 multiple choice, they're usually much shorter. Yeah, information is given straight ahead, and you don't have to take any notes. Actually, it is counterproductive. I realized because I spend time writing or typing.
Yeah, because it's easy to
it's just
process.
Easy.
Okay, right. Depends on the mood. If the question is long and tough, you would take notes. Otherwise, you wouldn't. Now, what about on CD, IELTS?
On CD.
Do you take any notes? Do you highlight, underline?
I do the highlighting part. Again, just as I do like with tracking with pen, I do it with highlighting the questions on the screen. And other than that, I mean, like this in part 1 or part 1 generally they have this, they spell the name or say the number. This is when I have to use the note taking, like with pen and pencil, with pen and paper.
Right.
And other than that, I don't know.
Other than that, you don't take any
No,
notes.
no.
Okay. About that part. So you took the CD listening twice. One time you got 8, and then okay, that was because you were sick and everything. What was the second time?
Another one was 8.5.
Yeah,
Yes.
why 8.5? Like what
Why
prevented you from
8.5?
getting
Well,
that 9?
one word, I didn't understood it. I heard it perfectly. It was like something like half. I wrote what I heard, like what I imagined it would spell like. Apparently, there's no such word in English, like half or half. And yeah, sure, this was a big mistake. Another one, I feel like it's either spelling in part 4, or I accidentally missed a question in multiple choice. Like, because it's embarrassing, but when you scroll the questions, when I usually scroll the question, I may accidentally click and something has changed. And I feel like this could have happened when I was at the end, 30 seconds until the end of the exam. I just trying to look through the questions, and I might have apparently accidentally clicked something. Either that, or I made a mistake with question I was sure was correct.
All right. Now, next time, like when you are actually going after that overall 9, what would you do differently about listening to make sure that you get that 9? Not another 8.5 or 8. Would you do anything differently?
I don't think I would actually do anything differently. I feel like it was a blunder.
Sure.
And I feel like my approach is working, is generally pretty effective. It was like, if it's like 98% success rate, those were only 2%. And the next time I would sure get 40 or 39.
That's interesting, because when the stakes are high like that, I want to make sure that I do certain things, I mean, like I take notes. I literally do take notes, even on CD IELTS. You wouldn't change. Interesting. Okay, all right. And even the context is not help, for example, with that particular word that you kind of missed, or you were...
It did not help.
Even
really,
the context
because this was like, it did not. Generally it does, I agree.
Yeah, but
you can guess what is a verb, a noun, or...
Okay. So for the listeners, though, what we could, what would you recommend about listening?
Listening?
Yeah.
Just listen to English as much as possible, really. To all the accents, American English, Australian, and good luck with that, actually. And just expose yourself to English again. Do listenings, know your weak sides, what types of questions cause problem to you. Generally, gradually eliminate them, work on them.
How knowing which questions cause most challenge help them?
I mean, some people find it harder to do multiple choice. Others struggle with catching the words that they have to put in and fill in the gaps.
So what they could do if they struggle with multiple choices? What do you think?
Note taking then definitely helps them, because maybe their problem is that they just cannot have all of the information in their mind. They just lose it. And note taking, it does help with that a lot, because they just write down what they are listening to, and they're just redistributing their mental power to not remember but to analyze what they're writing.
Right. So overall, just listen, improve basic listening skills, just listen and understand.
Yeah, this must.
All right. Sure. I mean, it's kind of obvious too at the same time, but so many people who struggle with listening, they're looking for strategies,
Yeah,
they're looking for
secret tip.
Exactly. So apparently you don't have any.
No, there is no secret technique you could use.
Right. Yeah.
A game changer.
Exactly. All right. Okay. Cool. Right. So moving on to the rating then.
Writing.
7.5, 7.5, and 8.
So why the second one was 7.5? I actually have a fun story, because when I entered the room and I opened this writing task 1, I saw a map, and generally I'm confident with maps, but this one was maps that I have never seen before. It was like a fire escape plan of a building, of a dormitory. And honestly, I didn't even know that this type of task 1 existed. And I was like, okay, let's give it a try.
But you didn't panic, even if
I didn't panic. I knew that the task 2 was going to be 8+, so even if I fail that one, 7.5 is guaranteed.
Okay.
And I finished task in 40 minutes, and the last 20 minutes I spent all on task 1, I was like using the general principles, highlight what is important, summarize information, use appropriate language, be brief, but on point. I don't know, like. Yeah, and I wrote it. It's all like 4 6s actually. I got the breakdown. It's like
was
six,
that for
six,
that
six,
one?
6. Yeah, for that fire escape
It was
plan.
for that fire escape. Oh,
Yeah,
right.
interesting.
Okay. Overall, you got just 6 for that.
Yeah.
Okay. And the task 2 for that was
8, 8, 8. 4 8s basically.
4 8s. Oh, that one was 8.
Yeah, just as usual.
As usual, you say. But one of your task 2s, you received a 9 for task response, which was the case the first time as well, actually.
Yeah,
no?
yeah, actually it was.
Which is, I think, very interesting. Because for me, like you should get that 9 in task response because you actually have very critical, like, you are good at thinking critically about a topic. Unlike many candidates, when they receive a question, they're thinking about vocab. They're thinking about like how else I can make it fancy.
Grammar,
but
yes.
that's not what you do. Can you maybe walk us through how you approach task 2? Or maybe let's start from the beginning, like what was your understanding of IELTS task 2 before?
Before,
like, I don't know.
Before the very first time, like.
Yeah, maybe. Like, what did you know about task 2 and how that maybe changed your understanding?
I knew nothing, and I was lucky enough to find the IELTS Advantage channel first, and this British Irish guy. He's very helpful, and I learned from him that task 2 is really more about just explaining stuff. Answer the question, don't overcomplicate it, just answer the question. Like, this is what's basically what his 40-minute video about task 2 summarized was like, just answer the question.
Yeah.
And this is what I did, and gradually over time, with your help of course, the task 2 rose from 7 to 8 and
9.
Not yet, but yeah, sure.
No, I'm specifically talking about task response.
Task response, yeah, it did.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, do you pay attention to question types in writing? Do you have any special approach, different approach to each type?
I mean, understanding the question is crucial because, if you're being asked what are the advantages and disadvantages, you sure should talk about them, not about the cause or anything or your opinion. I mean, yeah, this is actually the basic difference. Other than that, generally the approach is the same. Answer the question again, just read. Yeah, and it's actually not only the question is important. I found that, you're being given a task nowadays, something is happening. Why is that? And this something is happening, for example, urbanization is growing. It's actually very insightful because it helps you imagine the whole situation, the whole concept, what you're going to talk about or write about. And from that idea, you kind of get every other detail, whether it's advantages, disadvantages, just imagining the topic, maybe trying to personalize it, for example, from your own experience, okay, what's happening with urbanization in Uzbekistan? The city is growing, people are moving from rural areas to cities, and what is happening with people? There's some would say that there is a cultural, not a fight, but it's collision of two different cultures. When you have people who live in cities, they're very progressive, and then there might be social conflict, but then you also look from economic perspective, jobs are being created, labor, workforce growing, more houses, but then you have infrastructure. It's it's one big topic that is an umbrella of ideas, and you just pull one which you have to answer. Whether it's advantage, disadvantage, cause, solution.
Right. Okay. So you would say that again, it's not about question types, but just listen to the question. I mean, understand what the question is asking and do exactly what the question is asking.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Now, in terms of developing, let's say one of the most challenges for many candidates is that task response, and question coherence. So what exactly do you do for task response? How do you think? Because that's one of those aspects of your writing or thinking that I think is incredible and could be really useful. And that's why I'm not surprised why you would get those high scores in task response and question coherence. But many people don't understand that really. Language part is pretty obvious and clear. You do have advanced language skills, so that's why you're scoring high there. But in terms of task response, like, can you walk us through the way you, I don't know, plan or like how you get ideas? That's another area where many people struggle. When tough questions.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to ideas, I feel like my natural curiosity, my just, like this curiosity resulted in me just knowing lots of stuff. When it comes to history, politics, economy, I just know stuff. I learned it. I either accidentally heard it or I was looking for it. I just researched some topics, and because of that, I feel like I have this amount of knowledge that is very useful because, in a sense, I would actually link it to my obsession with science, maybe, because just understanding principles, how the world works, how it functions, can help you explain your ideas much better. And it really helps with avoiding overgeneralization or just thinking that one small change would solve the whole problem. When it comes to problem solutions, I see that a lot.
Right.
So yeah, just being naturally or artificially curious and trying to learn, trying to kind of like cover as many different topics as possible. I feel like it would help anybody, like other people.
All right. So there's no special approach. Again, you're just you know stuff. You just access that stuff whenever you need it.
To know that stuff, I would recommend people to learn it. And if they remember doing a question about environment, I would advise them to go and look it up on the internet. Just like what's the situation, what is happening, what are the causes of global change, or climate change, and having that in mind. Next time they got question about environments, they would perform much better because now they have knowledge to access information from.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the language aspect, I guess, right? Like, how did you improve your grammar vocab?
Over time, I feel like the quality of content might have played a role because, at the beginning I was listening to just casual YouTubers. But then, especially after finishing after first time I took IELTS, I moved on to more academic stuff. When they don't just use casual conversational language, they try to be really insightful, really complex. They're like grammar structure, vocabulary they use is all very complex, but yet it's clear. And I feel like just by listening to it for years, I kind of internalized this type of explaining ideas. Especially with complex ideas, it helps a lot because when the idea you're explaining is complex, you just need to use complex grammar structures and complex language. Otherwise, it would either not feel as high level, or you just might make a mistake with explanation.
But did you actually sit down and write down the words, like new words or more academic phrases, grammar structures? Did you work with those separately?
I did it for months, maybe. Like just as you recommended, as you ordered, maybe. I got a notebook, and I just wrote down any fancy or really high level language I met in my life, whether it's like other Mandarin essays or just a random word I heard on the internet. I was just quick to write it down.
And do you think that was helpful, like the actual process of writing things down, as opposed to just seeing them, encountering them, and then like, oh, okay, there's a nice phrase out there, that's it, like actual writing and having a notebook like that where you collect such language?
Me, it sure was helpful, because, after doing it for months, I realized that, especially it was like a time I have to take the exam. Because of that, I realized that now I know every word in the notebook, and this language is already mine. It's like it just comes naturally for me. And I feel like this is the whole purpose of writing down the words. Every week, not every week, but like every 2 weeks maybe, I did this revision of the notebook. It's from the first page to the last. I went through every word. What does it mean? I tried to use it in a sample sentence in my own head, maybe create a question out of it, so maybe explain it to 5-year-old, like I kind of do it. I try to explain words in a very simple way.
And why do you do that? I mean,
to
what's
make
the
sure
purpose?
that I understand it,
Mm.
and to make sure that I know how to use other synonyms with it to use it correctly.
I want to really stress that because, you know, it's one of the struggles of a modern or of teachers, you know, when they work with students, is like for them to actually write things down like that. There's that whole culture of not wanting to write things down. They think that they just read, they will see, they'll remember, and then they can't. And then when they're trying to write an essay, they're writing essay with a Google or any other AI helpers, and they're trying to complicate the language, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure there are extremely talented people with incredible memory who can actually benefit from just looking word and remembering it.
Yeah.
But because I wasn't one of those people, and I'm sure like the majority of people are not gifted like them, we just have to do it, guys. Like
Right.
there is no other way for us to work around this thing. We have to write it down because our mental capacity is not as wide. It's not as big.
Right. And it's like you know, like a joy actually, don't you find? Like writing itself, you know? Isn't it like a practice? You know, it's really nice. It's soothing.
Just general
mean,
practice. Just
Like, you know, like how do you feel when you write essays? Don't you feel like, isn't it something remarkable
like
and
I'm-
at the same time it's a really nice experience?
I also get this feeling when I'm giving a speech to a wide audience and I'm like sort of an expert on the topic, like a TED talk or something. And I get this feeling when I write, and I try to be simple. I try to convey my message, to deliver it actually without making a mistake. And I could say I feel some satisfaction, you know, especially after I finish and I read what I wrote, and I was like, okay, this
right.
This looks good. This feel good.
Yeah. When I asked for, you know, like for some possible questions that people might have for you, there was that particular question about like how you study, you know, with such a high level. They were curious about how you learn vocab, you know? So yeah, that's why. So you learn vocab by encountering it daily, and then you write it down, you practice, you make sure you understand it. You explain it in your head to a 5-year-old child, and you do that because you want to really get it. And you do that in, obviously, English definitions. You're not translating things or anything
translating,
like that.
I mean, like, if you want to get maybe 7+, you just have to operate full in English.
Right, which is also crucial. Got it.
It's
cool.
true.
Okay. Now, how do you develop ideas? I mean, look, so the first 2 times when you took the writing, you got 7.5, but this time it was 8, you know, like what do you think contributed to that higher score?
Task 1, really.
Oh, yeah? But task 1, you say?
Because like my task 2, the first time it was 9888, like it was 8 basically my task 2. And what made the difference was task 1.
How? You said task 1 was overall 6. Yeah?
Yes, but then it was 7.5. And because of that, my writing had become 8. Or what were you asking?
Or are we talking about like different breakdowns?
We're talking about writing, right?
Yeah, we're talking about the writing, but the recent breakdown you sent.
It was 6788.
Oh, right. Oh, the other one was just like
668.
Oh, okay. So overall,
Second one.
So okay, let's talk about that. So writing, that's also very interesting. A year ago, your writing was already 8. Oh, yeah, task 2 was 8.
Task 2
yeah,
was
like
8,
at least.
Task 1 was 615.
So then, during this whole period, like you didn't do much to improve your writing, or I mean, your writing task 2 did not improve much. So you're doing pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Which means you already knew back then what to do, and you just kept doing.
This task 2,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So you didn't change anything.
No, and I consumed more knowledge to use it in task 2. I consumed more English to learn about the word structures. And but it wasn't in an active manner with writing down stuff. It was just like a passive learning. Just listen to stuff, and maybe after you listen to it 10 times, you will remember it.
Okay, right, absolutely. But what do you think about writing a lot of it? Like, would you say that you wrote a lot of task 2s, like a lot, like daily? I don't know. And do you think that helped? But then, if you wrote a lot, then there wasn't much significant, growth. So what does that mean?
It wasn't really about writing, I would say, because what really made the difference was not writing, but actually reflecting on what I wrote.
Well, that's important.
Yeah, just working out my mistakes, listening to your feedback, and what could I do better next time.
Reflection, people.
Reflection is incredibly important.
Not writing hundreds of essays a day or
practice
over a month.
Doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Oh, that's a good point.
Meaningful practice.
Exactly, and that meaningful practice involves a lot of
reflection,
analysis. Right, it's another significant thing. All right, so task 1 made a bigger difference this time. In a way, what you did better with your, because the last time you got another map again. Was it a map?
Yeah, it was a map.
Again, yeah?
It was 2 maps, yeah. This time it was 2 maps, so I knew how to write it. It wasn't like something I've never encountered before.
But then did that change your task achievement score?
Actually didn't.
It didn't, right? Like it was the same thing. It was interesting, yeah.
I actually don't understand that. Okay.
But you improved at least in terms of language.
Yeah.
Because you could compare contrast. So maybe you could use different grammatical structures.
It just felt more natural, you know.
Okay.
More natural.
Do you think that was also because the fact that you were saying that it was more natural, so you could feel more comfortable, or this overall idea of wanting to feel comfortable with what you're doing? While it's significant, I understand. But at the same time, you know, you can't always control that maybe. Or maybe thinking that you should get comfortable could sometimes be the reason for mistakes or failure. Like the first time when you saw that map, it was this expectation that maps should always be, there should be at least 2 maps or maybe 3, but not 1. You know, that having that preconceived notion of what it should be and seeing that it wasn't.
Yeah, this contradiction.
Yeah. Can we talk about that as well?
Throw me off. So, yeah, well, what can I say? Just knowing about, like, you know, you have to know, but you also have to doubt your knowledge, because this contradiction, this unexpected task 1 was really, I don't know, was unexpected again. It's like, it did throw me off. I didn't panic, but it was unexpected. It did lower my score. And the second time, it's like I was already familiar with what the question is asking, like summarize the 2 maps. I know what to do. But the second time I had to learn what to do on the spot during the 20 minutes, during the exam.
Right. Okay. But I want, for the listeners to, about the expectations, like the danger of expectations, I guess. Again, if you prepare for one particular thing and you get exactly that, I think generally most people would do really well. But I think preparing for the worst case scenario or not having expectations at all might be just better. Like understanding the basics of the task, like what you're supposed to do, how you do it. That's it. Under any circumstance, you should be able to do it. I mean, that's the mindset, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that you have that mindset? I mean, because to me, you do seem like that, you know? Unlike average or typical candidates that prepare. Like, I have seen a very few students or candidates in my life who are like laser focused like that. You tell them one thing and they just go and do it. They're so disciplined, like almost like a robot, you know?
Yes, I actually also noticed that before, when people just don't follow what their teacher is telling them. It's I find it odd, because like why are you studying then with teacher, with mentor? Totally. You have a chance to actually get advice from the best in the industry. Why don't you just use it? Why do you think that you are so smart? I feel like it has to do with something. It has to do a lot actually with arrogance. Like just some people think they're just so smart that they do not need any piece of advice from others,
or they have to resist.
They have to, and in that sense, I guess I'm humble, because I understand that my expertise now is like nothing, and there's so much more to learn. In fact, I still feel like there's actually much more to learn about English for me, even after what I have achieved.
Right. Yeah, humbleness. That's a good quality to have, definitely.
Yeah. When it comes to mindset, I would say that the last time I had this quote in my head that I will succeed, not I will not fail because of all these minor inconveniences. Actually, I'm gonna succeed in spite of them. And I just entered the IDP building with that quote in my head.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it did help.
That also kind of reminds me of one thing that I'm seeing among candidates is this focusing on the negatives, like focusing on the things they cannot do well, and being afraid. Like, what if there's a word they don't know?
Yeah.
Like, all the other words, like just one word. Okay, fine. All right, fine. Like just like, in your case, so fine. You don't know one word and you don't get the answer right, but you know all the others, and they fail. They don't do well. They lose their confidence because they focus on the things they don't know. Like,
Yeah,
what
just
if, this happens?
mental energy, yeah.
Yeah. Like, did you do anything specific other than, like to gear yourself towards that positive mindset, or, even that quote, for example, that you mentioned that you went to the test with? Was there anything that you did?
The last time, I made sure that I'm healthy. I tried to avoid anything careless about my health, like no ice cream, no cold drinks, make sure to wear warm clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's like, I guess it sounds odd, but I had to do it. I had to tell myself to do it. Otherwise, I would get sick and again fail everything. Plus, I also tried to intentionally keep distance from IELTS, from all the memorization and preparation stuff, because once I start, I just get carried away, and the next thing you know, I didn't sleep well, or I forgot to eat. It did happen with me a lot. Like,
yeah, I remember you sending your recordings,
yeah,
speaking recordings in the
in
middle of the night, even
yeah.
after, and then you would say that you slept like a couple of hours. Now, you have had such, like, nights where you worked extra hard in addition to everything else that you had going on, which is, admirable, incredible.
But
not many people are willing to do that.
Yes, but it's like I could have done it better in a
In
more
what way?
sustainable way, because sure, I was very productive during those 4 weeks, but then I burned out and I couldn't work for the next 4 weeks. So instead of making 80% of progress in 8 weeks, I made only 60 in 4 weeks. And it's like sustainability is really important. I feel like when it comes to preparation, when it comes to anything, really.
Definitely.
So you want to be effective, but sure, you want to be efficient for the long period of time. Otherwise, what's the point?
All right, let's talk about sustainability. Like, what is that sustainable way of preparing for the tests so that people don't feel burned out?
First, it starts with self-research, self-awareness, to know to know your natural limits, like for how long can you work, can you study, and after which hour does it become unproductive for you to read, or how many essays per day can you write. It's like all those tiny details, you have to know them. You have to know them about yourself, and they take some time to research. And then just listening to your own body, I feel like it's important, because I used to ignore it. Anytime I feel hungry, I was like, okay, let me finish this, and then I will eat, but I didn't eat, and 2 hours had passed, and then again to sleep. It's like I was really careless about my health, I have to admit it.
But what do you say about people who consider themselves lazy, who barely, do the reading or whatever? And you're telling them to listen to their body.
Yeah. Of course,
would that strategy work for them?
Every person is different. Like, each case is unique. So yeah, with them, actually it's the opposite. For them it's probably much better to actually work hard. And I feel like if they actually listen to what their teacher is telling them, they would realize that sure, I'm not feeling lazy, but now I have to do this essay or reading passage or listening because my teacher is telling me. And I feel like teachers are also very good at noticing when the quality of studying goes down, especially with you. Like, because if it wasn't for you, I would just double down on my unsustainable preparation with speaking, with recordings and essays.
But then you're not a lazy person at all, would you?
Yeah, I'm a workaholic.
Yeah, so yeah. In your case, definitely balancing things was helpful, right? Okay, so that's the mindset: knowing your limits, balancing, doing things you enjoy, but then listen to your body. Do not burn out like that. Okay, all right. So that's the mindset thing. Got it. Okay. Task 1. This is probably maybe a good important thing, because the same thing happened in my case, right? Where we focus on the task 2, we already, master task 2, but then we tend to ignore task 1, thinking that's not that significant. So I'm like, well, I can write something in 10 minutes. But yeah, like game changer happened in my case when I noticed that I wasn't giving enough attention to task 1. And you're saying the same thing, right? Improving your task 1 was the key to making it
8,
an overall 8. Yeah, if you were to continue your prep or retake, you would focus on task 1 probably even more, or maybe do better.
On maps, really. I feel like I didn't do many maps before the last time. I was really focusing more on bar charts and pie charts and graphs.
Yeah, and the universe gave you 2 maps, in most experience to teach you the lesson. Right. Okay. Yeah. Right practice. Yeah. Definitely do not neglect any sections, any question times. Just prepare for all of it. Do not have expectations that you're going to get probably a bar chart. You're going to get a map. Just prepare for all of them in a sustainable way. Learn the basics.
Yeah. Core principles.
Core principles. Exactly. All right. So we covered everything about the writing, do you think? Or is there anything left you would you'd like to mention, recommend?
I feel like that's it. We talked about ideas, stuff. Yeah, I feel like.
Under exam conditions, you start with task 2 and task 1. And timing-wise, you spend on task 2...
40 minutes.
40 minutes, not more.
Always, yeah.
Okay, and task 1, 20. Okay. Do you have time to proofread your work? Do you do that? Or while writing, you try to check, improve your work?
While writing, if the sentence is complex and I had to rewrite it, during the writing process, I have to reread it because maybe I made a mistake and I just have to make sure. Otherwise, I will think about it and then I would not be able to focus on the next sentence and the flow of the text is going to be off. So yeah, it's like checking during the writing process, I do it. And at the end, also like after finishing the whole essay or the paragraph, if I feel like it was really complex, the ideas were really like harder to explain.
So it depends. Okay, on the complexity. Okay, but you're a high-level candidate, so you can afford that, I guess. You can check like right away or after finish the whole, or you can come back after the whole thing, right? And I wanted to ask one more thing. Like, when do you focus on language while writing? Like, do you ever actually think about like how to phrase it better, like how to say it in a fancier way?
How to phrase it better, I do it, but not for the sake of language, for the sake of meaning. Because I don't know if there's any, if I could come up with example, but it's like what I prioritize more is the clarity of my idea. And again, as I mentioned before, a language part, grammar and vocabulary, they're actually very efficient in delivering the message. Really, this is a key point. I feel like you could say that your language is high level only when your clarity is also high level, because there is no way how to use high level vocabulary like C2 vocabulary if it's used incorrectly, if the message is wrong.
Right. So you're always prioritizing clarity, communication.
Yeah, and language part is just comes naturally. And if I'm not satisfied with the way the sentence is written, it's generally because the idea is kind of confusing, not because the language, the word is wrong, or the grammar structure is not complicated enough.
Okay. Would you go, for example, with a simple word like people instead of human beings?
No, human beings is wrong.
It is wrong.
People, just write people. I don't know. It's like the context also matters. Maybe if we are talking about like people working, we'd say workers, workforce.
That's true. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you're choosing language depending on like whatever helps you to communicate your message better, not just to show off, not just to impress the examiner. All right. The same happens in the speaking?
Yes, exactly the same.
Okay, so you just focus on clarity, message.
Yeah, I'm just trying to answer the question. Answer the question again.
Okay. But you do focus on language, collect language separately though, yeah? Like when you're just listening to podcasts, you're reading books or whatever. This is like you separate. Yeah. Well, which is the same thing that I would recommend, definitely. But not while writing or speaking. You don't focus on the language.
No, it would be counterproductive. Yeah, it's like just spend mental power, mental energy on answering the question, like analyzing the idea, explaining it. This is much more important.
Right. And can you explain like why that's more important instead of focusing on the language?
Because again,
you said counterproductive. Like in what way?
In the sense that if I'm doing a speaking and I'm trying to think about the language, I either forget the question, which used to happen to me during mocks, if you remember. I feel like it happens to many people.
Yeah.
Actually,
And you would forget that because?
Because I was, instead of answering the question that was asking me about people, I was thinking about how to say what synonym I could use instead of people.
All right. Yeah, so people do not think about synonyms while speaking or writing. Focus on communication. Let the language come to you.
Yeah, because again, language is a tool. It's like language is best is when you are actually efficiently communicating, and it's impossible to do if you're trying to focus on the wrong thing.
And that's very insightful. True. Okay, so yeah, we covered, I think, about about the. But one more question,
Sure.
because you see, again, I want to highlight that your critical thinking is quite impressive. Like, what is that critical thinking in writing? Like, how do you develop ideas? How do you try to explain?
Well, I feel like it's mostly about task two, isn't it? It's like
task two. Yeah.
Could you say it about task one?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how could I put it best? Well, when thinking about I'm using the knowledge I have about the world.
Let me put it this
way.
I'm going to give you a task two question, and I want to hear like you're thinking out loud, like how you're planning. Yeah. What are you thinking while planning, right? Like this is just the planning part. And how much time do you spend, by the way, on planning under exam conditions?
I mean, on average, no more than 5 minutes. Maybe if the question is like really challenging, it's a really rare one that requires some complex idea that has to be explained. The planning, it takes a bit more, maybe 6, maybe 7 minutes.
Okay.
Because yes, again, this planning on paper, with pen, also helps you to be more efficient with your mental energy.
Okay. Well, let's see. I'm going to read out loud with the question. Teenagers face a lot of problems in schools and at home. What is the cause of this, and how can parents solve this problem?
Okay. So when you said teenagers, of course, I first think about myself, my peers, what we go through, what we talk about, and was it like challenges, right? So
yeah, they face a lot of problems.
Generally, it's all about studying, academic pressure, institutions, schools put too much pressure on us, and we have no time to just enjoy life, to spend it with to hang out with our friends. We get overwhelmed, depressed, maybe even. And
what
so
about problems at
academic
home?
Pressure, problems at home. Oh, this one a bit hard to personalize. So now I have to think about like an imaginary situation, like an extreme case of how somebody is having problems at home. So generally it's like they have problems with their parents because they have opposing views maybe. They want different things. Their parents are being like too obsessed over control. Maybe they want their son or daughter to live life that like they want it. So like the conflict is based off difference in worldview, in ideology maybe even.
Cool.
For example, like conservative parents and very progressive children or something like that. So this is a problem. And when it comes to solutions for parents, right? Parents are the ones who have to do the solutions part, not the government, not anybody else.
What can parents do? How they can solve this problem?
So now it will sound like an advice for parents to listen to their children, to try to understand their point of view, like to try to really like it's like a therapy. Just go to therapy basically. This is one advice, one solution. Another one, maybe be more open to their ideas, understand that they're different people, or the times have changed, the technology and stuff, society. So yeah, I guess this would be it when it comes to ideas.
And these two solutions would address both parts, like teenagers facing problems.
Academic parts, we also have it. Well, when it comes to academics, parents should not obsess over academic achievements, and especially it's common in Asian culture, I guess. I would use
But
like,
then how would you explain that idea that they shouldn't obsess with academics?
so it's like
Why
when
not?
parents judge their children if they happen to fail to get a B or A minus, and for them it's like make sure that their children, even if they are in trouble, even if they are suffering with academics, that they are supporting them instead of judging them. Maybe, I don't know, invest in their education more, hire a tutor, or buy books they need. It's like, this is general advice, I feel like.
Okay, so you would structure it problems in one paragraph, solutions another.
Yeah, or problem
Or
solution,
problem
solution. I feel like
solutions.
problem solution might fit this one much better.
Yeah, depends on like whichever sounds more natural to you at a given time. Okay, now while planning, generating ideas. Like I don't think it took you much time, and the moments when you kind of forgot a little bit what you were saying, it was because you were not writing it down.
Yeah, because even
yeah,
during
if you-
writing, I look
you-
back at the plan to make sure
definitely.
I'm following it.
And to generate these ideas, you actually looked at something you personalized,
Yeah.
which is a great thing for everybody to do because they know themselves, they have experiences, they look at those things. And then you looked like somewhere
Extreme cases,
outside.
yeah.
Extreme cases. Or maybe not so
Or just
extreme,
average,
but it's
yeah.
just something typical probably for some people. Right. Okay. Yep, that's it. When it comes to writing, while writing, what do you focus on now? Like you already have
So
ideas.
yeah,
you know
now
what
I
you wanna
have
say.
I have my plan, I have my ideas, and I do introduction, like just basic structure of the
sure.
paragraph: introduction, ideas, explanation of ideas, example, if possible.
You see,
And
like,
then-
I want to compare the approach, like the way I would plan. That would be to ask these questions, like, okay, teenagers have academics,
What?
like, why? How come they have this? Like, well, because they're competing. Like, who is forcing them to compete? Probably their parents, and that's why they have these conflicts. But then, why parents have that conflict? Like, why parents are like pushing their children to get this A plus instead of just B? Like, why is that? I would probably want to answer that question. Would you? Would you consider
Yeah.
that as well, maybe? I mean, in your plan or while writing?
Yeah, this question will certainly pop up when planning. Yeah, I would say that parents want the best for their children.
Or what they
or
think is best
what
for
they
their
think
children.
is best. Yeah, yes. Is the point.
Based on their own experiences,
Yeah,
their
yeah,
own...
which may be outdated.
Okay. Yeah, and that's why they have conflict. Like,
Yeah.
this is where naturally one idea ended.
Yeah.
And now we're like, okay, solution is they should, lower their standards.
Be
or...
supportive,
Uh-huh.
therapy stuff.
Okay. And then, when it comes to the solution part, do we develop the solution, like why that solution, how that solution is going to work, or do we just...
if it's, like sometimes even when it feels obvious to me, I understand that when explaining it to an average person, they might have some additional questions, and I have to address those in the next sentence, because otherwise the achievement is going to be lower because my idea is exposed. Like it's not strong enough to be convincing. Because basically I try to convince my reader, I feel like.
And you do that by predicting what questions they might
Predicting the
have.
question. Like how,
you're having a dialogue
why,
in your head.
what for.
Yeah. Pretty
Maybe
much it.
is it real? Like examples also help to make to convince the reader that it is actually happening in our world, and you can see it in this country or in those type of families.
Speaking of examples, how do you think about examples? Like, do you always make sure that you include examples in your writing?
I mean, if my idea is concrete, if I'm not talking about something very abstract like happiness or love, this type of stuff. If it's like something like environment, society,
but
economics.
even those, like it's possible that you might not include an example.
It's a very personal example about, I don't know, like some random people. It's like,
Okay.
I don't feel confident giving examples to those kind of questions, those kind of ideas, because they're really a bit too subjective, I feel like.
Okay.
So, but when it comes to environment, for example, I easily come up with examples from my own head.
And you do, like mention, like add example. And what do you think about some made up examples or, some statistics, fake statistics? Do you ever include those?
I would not include numbers.
Why not?
No, it's like, I mean, it is pretty convincing, but then sources, what are your sources, or why is it that like these numbers are true? Because I feel like with numbers it's a bit too easy to exaggerate, and once the reader starts to question your example, then your whole point seems much weaker. Because how is it like possible that 90% of Uzbek people don't like plov or something? It's like, the statistics should make sense. And
But would it make sense?
at least for me, hard to make sense out of
Interesting.
numbers. It's much easier to say that something has happened really bad, or people struggled or benefited. It's like, just be vague. Prove your point, but don't get too much into details with examples.
Interesting way of explanation you have for like why you would.
It's not convincing.
No, it's okay, I guess.
Unless you're using sources.
But even if you do, I don't know. I would not recommend using statistical things like that because it's not a math test. It's not a research paper. It's argumentative essay, whatever it is you write. You're not going to know the facts like that anyways, or it's not going to help. And when people tend to write like that, they think it's convincing enough. Like when they say 85% of the people, do this, like, what does that mean? So what if 80% of the people do this? They support this idea. Like, so what, Yeah. Okay. Yeah, like numbers, facts like that do not actually help to support arguments. But all right. Okay. Yep. Realistic examples are the best. Yeah.
Realistics or
made
examples
up,
that sound realistic.
Realistic. Yeah, like logical.
Logical.
All right. Okay. I think we covered everything about the task 2 now. Task 1. I mean, is there anything you would say about task 1?
Task 1.
Something that is significant.
Yeah, maybe know how to read the graphs, like what is important. And for me, what catches my eye first is the most important part. If like there's some variable that stands out, I have to mention it in overall, this type of stuff.
Yeah, know how to read the graph. That's, I think, very significant. Many people like look at the reports thinking about vocabulary. Like how to paraphrase, what are the synonyms again, instead of actually, what is this report talking about? That's good. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. I think we covered enough, yeah? Timing and proofreading, analyzing, focusing on language. Okay. Nice. Let's talk about speaking now.
Speaking. The most interesting aspect of IELTS for me, honestly.
Interesting aspect, right.
From my weakest side to my strongest.
Again, right. In the past, like I said, you were speaking, for example, in my opinion, it was not really a 7, at least 7.5, but not like maybe 8. It was an extreme, it was a little stretch. But this time you have really, I mean, if you remember, I was telling you that you had potential for 8.5. But then when you got, again, 7, it was like, what is that, It didn't make sense at all. So that means you have actually done a lot to improve your speaking skills.
Yeah.
To all the way to 9. But then what have you done to improve your speaking skills?
Well, the big thing that helped me the most was shadowing, just imitation, because my pronunciation, not only in English, but generally my pronunciation was pretty weak. I used to mumble all the time. But only after I started like really doing the imitation every day for 40 minutes for 4 weeks straight. Like after that, I actually noticed that now I'm speaking slower. My speech is much clearer and the words come out naturally and there is sort of a melody in my speech.
Exactly. Do you recall how you used to speak before you started working actively on mulling? Like, can you just give me a couple of sentences, like how you used to speak?
So it's just like I didn't open my mouth at all almost. It's like I could feel my teeth touching each other. It's like, yeah.
Is that how you naturally speak actually?
Maybe if I'm actually...
Like in Russian, for example.
Russian. I used to speak like that, but then naturally I noticed that I started to open my mouth more. And I feel like Russian actually, if you compare it with English, it's not as... it doesn't require as much enunciation, really. You can make those sounds even without opening your mouth much wider.
I would imagine journalists, for example, like hosts, probably working on all those aspects of pronunciation, the way they work with their mouth and everything. I think they still do too. Maybe in everyday life, you don't have to. It's a part
of their job. They talk for money, so they have to master it.
So maybe in all languages, you would have to articulate better, enunciate, etc. Yeah, especially when on the IELTS test, when it's really assessed. But that was one of the important things. You see, culturally, maybe speaking, or for cultural reasons or personality reasons, I see a lot of people not being comfortable with pronunciation features. That is like the last thing they think about. They focuses only on vocab, maybe, I don't know, again, grammar, or maybe some ideas, and that's it. And like there's most candidate speech are quite flat, monotonous. Yeah. And when I like, can you work on pronunciation? They're like, that's how I naturally speak. Just mumble like this. What can I do? And they try a couple of times and it doesn't work. So it's just how I speak. That's it. There's nothing I can do. But you're the example, like literal evidence. Like for me, that's proof that even if naturally you do not speak with clear articulation and enunciation, you can improve that. Yeah. So that was, I think, significant in your speaking, like later. Maybe the first time you didn't do much. I mean, you did not actually do that at all, right? Yeah. You did at the time focus more on just speaking, maybe practicing vocab, maybe grammar.
Not like really precise, like just targeting only pronunciation.
Yeah, but this time you actually did. Yeah. Okay, right. You did that. You practice actively like that. All right. What else? What else helped you to speak better and perform better?
Well, again, trying to convince my listener, the examiner, with my idea. Mm-hmm. I realized that like tone, intonations, they play a big role in trying to sound more persuasive. Mm-hmm. And by using right intonation, pronunciation features, you can actually get more engaged in the topic, and then after that you start to use those features naturally. You don't have to really think about them. For example, if I'm trying to explain something I'm excited about, I just start naturally speaking a bit faster, but then stressing one word that I actually want to listen to understand fully. Mm-hmm. And it's like this desire, I guess, to make sure that now examiner shares my point really helps me to use both pronunciation features and the better ideas, more precise ideas.
Now, did you notice and learn these things through just imitation or shadowing?
Well, actually, a fun thing is that first I noticed them through imitation, through just listening to great speakers, noticing how they talk, but then I start to notice it in my everyday life. Like when I hear somebody speak, I actually notice that, okay, now they made a pause. Now their voice is much louder, and because of that, I feel convinced by what they said. And it's like
nice, right?
Once you learn it, you start to see it everywhere.
But for that, you have to actually pay attention, right? Instead of just paying attention to the content, you started noticing those things.
Yeah, it's like the language again. It's an instrument of communicating, and the highest level of language is the clearest. So basically, high level of speaking would be for you to speak in such a clear way that nobody has any questions, that your intonation, content, grammar, vocabulary, everything is very precise, and it is easy to understand you.
Right. So shadowing, imitation, noticing. You recorded, you would record yourself. Would you listen to your recordings to see how you're doing, like how you actually sound?
Not often, but like once every month, every 2 months, just to see how much progress I made. Because if I listen to it every day, or
you may not
every week, I feel like, okay, it's just as bad as it used to be. But if it's like a month's difference between them, I would like, okay, now I speak much clearer. Now the pauses are more natural. There is no hesitation.
Nice. So you would reflect again, like practice, record, and then reflect after some time. Right. Okay, so shadowing, what else you did? Like how about retelling?
Retelling, yeah.
Would you say that?
But really... Retelling, I feel like retelling really helps you with ideas and is being more coherent with what you're talking. Just having this logical link throughout your speech.
What about language?
Language-wise, it sure did help, but I feel like it wasn't the thing that helped me the most, because in my case, all of the content I listened to helped me naturally, like, enrich my vocabulary. This language part is maybe idioms or complicated ideas explained in a way that keeps your attention. Feels like I kind of just listen to those every day, and then I noticed myself using those exact words and sentences. So, but
like naturally exposing yourself and then collecting and then trying to use them from time to time.
I guess I did retelling, but it wasn't this uh, it wasn't retelling in the sense that I didn't do it for IELTS sake. I did it as a part of my university studies, or just speaking with others, with my like IELTS buddies during
Exactly.
the
Shout out to your IELTS buddies.
yeah, the great guys and girls.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, yeah, this community, having people who share the same goal and work together, it also helped me a lot, because both times, all times actually, like all 3 times,
Yeah.
I had them. I prepared with them.
Mm-hmm.
We regularly did speaking with each other. We checked each other writings, and I feel like if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't get where I am now.
Yeah, definitely.
And
You're
even
lucky to
further.
have those
Yeah,
support
they're
of.
very smart guys.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. So he's talking about a group of
Yeah,
friends,
Friends.
yes, buddies, like on a
Camaraderie.
boat. Yeah, camaraderie.
rather.
Yeah, that's also very, very important. I mean, sometimes I see candidates wanting to prepare on their own. Even if they come to courses,
Yeah,
classes, they're like too shy, or they think that they can do it on their own. But I think it's a lot harder to do on your
It's
own
much
when
harder,
you're
yeah.
surrounded by right kind of people that support you, that push you. Because I think you guys were doing that for each other. You were pushing each other all the time.
Yeah, there were days when I wasn't feeling very productive. And then my friend Amal, he was the one to hold me responsible, to say, come here, we'll do it together,
Yeah.
even if you're feeling bad. I'm also feeling bad, but let's do it. We have to do it for our goal.
Right. I think, that's one of those best parts of the whole preparation sometimes.
It also helps to have fun, to actually make the process sustainable.
Yeah.
Because unless you enjoy it, you would really struggle with continuing doing the same thing for so many months.
Yeah, people, right, focusing or creating that kind of community, finding. It doesn't have to be really big, right?
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, people that are dedicated, as much dedicated as you are, and determined, and are ready to push, not just to be a yes man. Yeah, definitely would significantly boost your performance and the overall joy of the preparation. Yeah, and you did that. You had that.
I had that. Yeah, I was
3
very
times.
lucky.
That was that was also significant. Okay, so retelling, then you practice a lot. You guys push each other, like critically thinking. I remember listening to your recordings where you guys would push each other, like
any idea I had, he would question it.
Yeah,
and
like,
I did the same thing.
Yeah, like, what do you mean by this idea? You guys would do. Yeah.
It was fun.
By the way, during the speaking exam, in that last one, or in general, like, did the examiners do the same, like, or did they just listen to you when you were answering questions?
So basically, the examiner did it, and the way she did it was that she interrupted my speech, and then she asked the question, and I was actually surprised that it didn't really throw me off, because I was so focused on my idea that I could easily move on to answering her question, because it was related to my idea.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she did really doubt my points.
Mm-hmm. And you were ready for that, because that's what you've been doing with your IELTS buddies.
That's exactly what I drilled with my friend.
Right? Yeah. Because examiners are not always going to just... Actually, you ever experienced where examiners asked a question and they just listen to you, and you kept talking, and then they would just ask?
I feel like
was it like that?
No.
No, right?
She did interrupt me. In a sense, I actually understand why she did it. Because again, language is a means of communication, and she wanted to see if I am able to still communicate when my idea is questioned, when I'm maybe under pressure.
Yeah.
And also maybe my language wasn't clear enough for her to make sure.
She just wanted to challenge you.
Yeah, also.
Yeah, that's a good thing, actually. I mean, some people are thrown off by that. Or when, even in class, sometimes students are answering the question, and I'm like interrupting them and asking a question. Sometimes they get it personal, why are you interrupting me? And they don't like that. But that's what actually, they should be prepared for. Examiners, they are going to stretch candidates, especially if they're high level. They're going to check that critical thinking, how you're going to respond to criticism, not necessarily like a personal thing, but just to see whether you can handle that. Or when you're questioned, how you're going to support your ideas, or you're going to be like, I'm sorry, examiner. No, you're right. And then, how you're going to handle that situation. So yeah, that was again, critical thinking. Yeah. All right. Okay. Right. So we covered anything else left in the speaking, really?
Well, getting interested in your speech. Again, just trying to prove the point. I feel like this is it basically.
And feeling passionate about your own
Feeling
ideas, I
passionate
guess.
about
Yeah,
the
like
ideas,
enjoying the
yeah. Just
process.
actually saying your mind. I think it's important because I heard about people
Mm.
who purposefully say the either negative or positive side of the question because they just start to agree with it, and they think that by doing so they will use the best language. But I feel like you're gonna use the best language only when you're actually speaking your mind, without using any extra filters to enhance your performance. Because this is what happened in my case. I just said what I meant, and it helped me naturally use the best language.
Right. And what you meant, though, was already
it was different.
over time.
No.
I mean, you know, like, I mean, you had worked on that, right? It wasn't just like shallow thinking.
No,
or was it?
Yeah,
I mean,
it was critical thinking.
Yeah.
Being
You had
logical.
cultivated those thinking skills already, that you could just say what you really mean and it would come off like, you know, really well.
I guess there was always sort of an intellectual, you know, even in school.
Like intelligence, cognitive skills that you had
know a lot
going
of
on.
stuff. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. Any mindset, like, did you feel nervous about the, you know, speaking, for example, or while you were speaking?
Not the last time. The second time I was a bit nervous because I felt like, okay, now I'm sick. Now everything could be off. Now the laptop is too slow. The room is too cold. I kind of got focused on those things too much. But the last time I was like, okay, positive. I know I'm gonna see somebody. I have no expectation for who it's gonna be because either way I'm gonna perform really well. I'm gonna speak slow. I'm gonna answer the question. I'm gonna relax, breathe. What else? Just keep my mind focused on the speaking.
That's the right mindset.
Yeah, that's
going to the speaking test.
Same thing, yeah.
Rather than worrying about who the examiner is going to be.
Yeah.
Where you might actually, you know, like fail, what you might not know, what you did not prepare for, what if you can't speak. No, right? Focusing on the right things that you can actually control. Yeah. Positivity. Tell me more about that,
your
please.
Advice. Oh my God, if it wasn't for your advice, because like this, be positive. It's like, this is what actually made me smile much more. This is what made me.
And how that helped you to
much
speak
more
better.
Because I feel like, you know, positive attitude, seeing examiner also smiling back, it also like made me more confident about my speech. It helped me. It kind of showed me that what I'm making makes sense. Because sometimes examiners, you know, like when you say something, they look at you with this stare at you, like what you said was nonsense. And I feel like for many people, it makes them feel so hesitant and uncomfortable that their whole speaking goes like a score or two lower. So, this positive atmosphere of speaking really helped me perform the best I could.
But the positive atmosphere you're talking about is the one that you created in your mind in the first place.
Saying, by creating my mind and then like being very polite with the examiner, saying hello, nice to meet you.
You say it like that as if, what were you doing in the previous two exams?
I said hello, but I wasn't like really smiling. And especially the second time, I feel like he could see that I was not feeling good because this being irritated was seen on my face, you know, like my
being irritated by health issues,
by everything.
Okay, so another tip of advice or
be positive
is don't be irritated.
And
be healthy.
Yeah, be healthy. Yes.
Right. And I feel like when you're positive, just your mind works on a different level. It just generates more. It just gives you more of what you know. But when people are stressed, they just block everything because they're so worried. Like the things they want to say comes out just wrong, you know? Like even if they know, like they say the wrong thing. And they're like, why did I just say that? Because I was so worried. I was so nervous. So, like what would be your recommendation for people who feel so nervous like that they lose themselves, they can't really perform well? What they can do to be positive?
Relax. Understand that it's nothing but an IELTS test and you can always retake it. And your life doesn't depend on it. You are not valued as a person based on your IELTS score because you are so much more than just an IELTS score. And understanding that, having that in mind, I feel like they would realize that, okay, sure, it is the test, but it's nothing but a test of my English. And I have the English to actually get it. So all I need to do is just think positively, have positive expectations, maybe like just like prepare themselves
Hmm.
to perform well and to have this mindset of, again, I will not fail because of minor inconveniences. I will succeed in spite of them.
Right. Okay. Like my way of preparation for the positive mindset, because I do work on that. I mean, again, unlike you, or maybe unlike many other people, I don't know. It doesn't come naturally to me, so I have to prepare myself for that. Because actually, I had that one time experience where I could literally control that, and I remember that experience. I was in a bad mood. I was in such a mood. Like I had no mood for the exam. But at the same time, I was reminded that if I don't feel like it, I'm not going to do well. I know that I'm not going to even want to speak. So I had like 5 minutes or so. I had to wait before the exam started. So they're like, just wait, I'll call you. I was like, okay, so I'm like having a dialogue with myself in mind. Like, okay, you have a choice right now. You can control that and start feeling good and make yourself feel good about it. Or you can just continue to be like, whatever, and just go to the test and probably just, fail it. And I remember telling myself, okay, how do I just keep telling myself, I'm excited about the exam. I love the exam. I love speaking. I enjoy it. Who's going to be my examiner? Like I just kept telling myself, and all of a sudden, like, within 2 minutes, I can start feeling how I'm getting more positive, more excited, from being, I don't care about this test. What am I doing? Whatever. Like from very negative state of mind, I changed to positive. So that might be something, helpful for others as well, I guess. Something they can actually do, right? Our brains are kind of machines, really. Whatever we tell, it might actually do. We just have to convince our brain to do it, of a command or a habit. They can surround themselves with the right environment where they feel more positive. All right. Okay, so that's the positivity. All right. Anything else left here? Do you think we've covered everything?
I feel like generally understanding that progress will happen, but it's going to be slow is also important, because many people just get stressed out because they haven't made any progress in months. And I also had this feeling for some time. So
that happened probably because you felt like you did not have that sustainable practice. Yes, you felt like, but you didn't really improve much though in that month. Or would you say you have
like 10 days? You mean, or what?
Yeah, or in the last 10 days, or just 1 week?
It was 10 days, yeah.
Would you say that you did a lot of practice?
Actually, I did minimum practice.
Minimum,
I did
right? So you didn't do much.
Yeah,
just rested.
I just rested. I needed that much more. I realized that I need that much more.
Yeah, speaking of which, by the way, after that second test, when you got again 8, when I asked you, like, come on, retake the test, are you interested? Your immediate reaction was like, no. Right?
No.
Like, no, probably like, that's it. I've done my best. I don't think I can. So you're ready to give up. I remember pushing you, like, come on.
Yeah, it was like an instant, momentarily feeling of failure. I got overwhelmed by it because, again, you see, like, it's not even like the scores were not as good as they used to be. It's actually lower. And I was like, okay, what is going on? I felt dumb. I felt like nothing I will do in the future is going to make sense, because I felt now. And I feel like I understand now how ridiculous those thoughts were. But back at the time, it was what really made me stressed. It was like in my head always. And I had to just like take some time, maybe few hours. I just sat and reflected on, okay, what happened? What might have gone wrong? How can I prevent it? Can I prevent it even? Reflection part of it.
So that reflection afterwards made you realize that
made me realize it was just
you still have another fight in you. You can redo. Nice. All right. Yeah, I think we covered now, yeah? Not just, reflecting so you can truly know yourself, your skills.
Also having somebody who is experienced, because of course you might be correct, but your opinions are going to be subjective, and having a teacher or a friend tell you from they objectively tell you what is going on with your progress. It's also helped me. Help kind of anybody. In my case, it was you. Yeah, it's telling me that actually I have it. It was just an unlucky day, maybe.
That happens too. Exactly. Yes.
It happens to the best of us.
Again, the right people that can guide you, that can support you, whoever that is. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Not too tired yet?
No, why
all right. I'm just going to ask a couple 11. Let's do some performance. Let me ask you some part 1 questions or part 3 questions.
Don't promise anything, but sure.
Don't worry about it. Like you said earlier, the right mindset, which is focus on ideas, your communication, just use the language as a tool. That's it. Yep. Maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, I'm sure people listening to you are curious, like how you actually speak, how you perform. And I hope that would, change or help them understand what it means to speak at a high level truly. Not what they think it should sound like, but what it actually is.
There is a big difference.
Yeah. Okay.
House Advantage Band 9 videos are also very good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The only resource I would trust really on the internet.
Oh yeah,
only
totally.
him.
And that's more than enough, actually.
Yeah, because he has everything about any topic, any question. He answered that.
Okay, part 1 questions. When did you get your first mobile phone or cell phone?
So, my first mobile phone, it was I was about 13 maybe years of age, and it was just a ordinary Samsung. Everybody back at the time had it. It wasn't really luxurious, nothing very screaming luxury or high level richness, and but it was very sturdy. I used it for more than 3 years, and it did not break, which is surprising because I'm a very clumsy person. And for me to bring...
Now, what do you use it for most often? Or your cell phone now, in general?
Well, it's mainly about entertainment, really. Just YouTube, Instagram, doom scrolling for hours. And sometimes I also use it for my education, but I do use it for listening to lectures or learning something new. But still, I feel like it's kind of hard to use it for academic purposes because you have this temptation of going on Instagram and looking stories of your friends to see what they're up to. So yeah, I feel like it's mainly entertainment.
All right, thank you. Now these were part 1 questions, and I just want to little comment on how you responded right now. While you were answering, you just focused on what? Explaining, just answering the question?
Yeah, just saying what happened.
Supporting your ideas,
when you talked about when I answered when did I get my phone, I felt like just saying when I was 13 wasn't enough, so I said that, gave some comments about my phone.
And you just added whatever felt natural to answer the question as fully as possible, given the time and everything, right? Yeah. Okay, so you don't have a plan of, I need to answer 1 sentence or 2 sentences. You don't have that kind of plan while answering questions?
Not really. I just try to say my point, say my idea. If I feel like that's enough, I stop. But generally, I never felt that that's enough because there's always something to add, something interesting.
Exactly.
And examiner will stop me. I know that. I trust examiner. Exactly. They'll stop me when they hear enough.
That's true. That's what I keep telling people. And when they try to limit themselves, it's part 1. I should answer shortly, briefly. But no, just go with supporting, explaining yourself, and the examiner will just stop you. All right, now let's do part 3. What is the most important thing to consider when choosing a job?
Well, I feel like the first thing that comes to my mind is, of course, salary, because many people, me myself included, they understand that we need money to survive, and this job is the most stable version of making a living. So making sure the salary is satisfying, that you are okay with how much you earn. But other than that, I feel like what is often being overlooked is job satisfaction or feeling a purpose. Because with many jobs or with many people, I often hear them complain about that They do not feel any purpose in their job in the way that they just feel like they're making money, but they do not bring any benefit to society. They do not help people, and those two are big factors. But besides that,
All right, thank you.
um,
Okay. I like this response. You made 2 points. You explained yourself, and it was very natural. You didn't rush to answer the question. You started slowly with, like a little intro there, and you made a point. So it was very natural, and you used language also quite naturally, without even thinking, probably, right? Did you even notice the language you were using? Like you were using passive voice
like
there.
remembering, I feel like did you?
Were you even aware of the language you were using? Or just like, no,
yeah,
you
just
answer it.
just answers the
Yeah.
question, just
Yeah.
based on my experience, and language comes naturally.
Exactly, that's what
Just
happens
have
at a high
to
level.
nurture it,
When your
happens.
level is actually high, it just comes natural. You don't even know it. You can't even control that. Yeah, but at a low level, people keep trying to push more advanced language. Right? Well, okay. That was pretty much, I think, like sums up the whole experience. And I hope that we covered like pretty much everything.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
What do you say?
Yeah.
And it was quite insightful. Thank you, Mirzabek.
Thank
Seriously, I mean, it has been pure pleasure and honor to have
Sure. Same.
to have worked with you, to have, guided you a little bit and see your progress,
You feel like it's over. Come on.
Yeah, seriously, no, it's one of the purposes, it's like the joys of what I do. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. All right. Yep, we get in.